So, hello. Today I have a special guest, and we're going to talk about how touching yourself can dramatically improve your sex life. Okay? He is a specialist coach working with men on creating much better, much more pleasurable sexual lives and relationships with their partners and lives in general. So, Nathan, hello.
Hello.
So
Yes,
glad to have you here. Um, okay, Nathan, why don't you just tell us a bit more about yourself? I gave you a very short introduction, so I know there's like lots more juicy stuff.
of course. Thank you so much for having me, Lianna. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, my name is Nathan, and I am a certified coach. I specialize with men in the realms of intimacy, self-mastery, and also how to show up better in our daily lives and also in our relationships. So like the areas of expertise that I really dive into with clients are having to do with trauma, somatics, anything that um, are unconscious, ineffective patterns, blocks that may get in the way of us really showing up fully with ourselves and with our partners.
Yeah. There's always a lot of deep stuff going on that we carry from our childhood, from our ancestral past, from even from our present. Things
Mhm.
come up, right? And we tend to hold on to it. So I wanted to bring Nathan in because I've been talking about things that men can do to help their wives to get them into a place where they want to open up, their wives want to open up and talk about fantasies and desires. And I'm talking about what women can do in order to get their husbands sort of aligned. And we're trying to get you guys together so that you can be conversing and enjoying each other's company and going into the dimension of sexuality and exploring and having fun and creating more and more pleasure. So here we're talking about a very fun aspect because it's about touching yourself. And so let's start right off the bat with that because I want to get into like what are we talking about when we say that? And I know Nathan has an interesting story about his own life and how he got to where he is, and maybe he can share with us a bit about that too because we
Mm.
want to know like how do we get there? How does this work?
Yeah. Well, where do we begin? Well, first
Mm-hmm.
off, with touching yourself, it's really the conversation around us as men learning how to meet our own sexual needs first and foremost. And then from that place, we can step into partnership and into our relationships and have those conversations from a place of already a sense of fulfillment within and not needing our partners to fill in anything, right? It's an invitation rather than a need, than a want, than a, coming from a place of lack, right? But it's rather this sexy invitation where it's like, I'm so
Mm.
full in myself. I can, let's have you join me, like that kind of energy rather than like, I need to step into this conversation. It's going to be clunky and difficult and I don't want to do it. So it's
Oh
like
my
the
God.
whole different energy of like how we enter the conversation when
I love that. I love that.
we're able to just learn how to first fill our own needs. Yes, there's going to be certain things that our partners can also uh, fulfill that we can't do ourselves, but having that sense of having a full cup within ourselves first helps so much when we step into that conversation.
Yeah, I love that word invitation, inviting your partner in,
Mhm.
instead of attacking or criticizing or pointing fingers or just expectation. The invitation is just so much more sensual, right?
Mhm.
You feel as a woman, I mean, just hearing that from you, I feel like, okay, yeah, I'd like to be invited in to participate, you know?
If we just connect with where that is truly coming from, an invitation comes from this grounded place within ourselves, right? But this complaining and nagging comes from a wounded part of ourselves. So it's pretty self-explanatory which one is sexier and more more likely to be successful.
Yeah, okay. Well, so let's get into this a little bit. Were you in a wounded place and then you managed to find your way out of there?
For sure, for sure. You
What does
often,
that mean? What does it mean to be in that wounded place? And what does it look like for
yeah,
for men to understand that?
yeah, it's funny because we often have to learn the very things that we teach. And boy, have I learned because growing up, I turned to porn as an escape mechanism to escape the chaos in the household. And that was like my way of just regulating my own emotions, escaping from reality. And that that really snowballed into porn and sex addiction in my early adulthood. I got into some very toxic relationships and got involved with sex workers and even got somebody pregnant and by accident and ended up being a miscarriage, and the whole thing was just such a jarring experience for me relationally and sexually, and even within myself there was a lot of pain that was driving my behavior and relationships. and
Mm,
uh, and so, having just been in this journey of addiction, when it came to really relating with women, I often found myself in the past coming from a place of, will she choose me? Will will I actually be enough just as I am? Well, is like it's always this like fear of rejection, and like wondering if what I have to say actually matters, and wondering if I say the truth, am I going to push her away? And all of these things uh, really stemmed in how I related with my mom, and how I always like wanted to take care of her needs, and really just became a very big people pleaser.
mm,
Uh, and so the journey back into really finding my own center, my own truth, and being a stand for what I care about, for what I value in life, has been this whole this whole like journey since like 2018 was when I really made that decision to put a stake in the ground and turn my life around in the sense of like healing my past emotional pains, traumas, and all the things that like really kept me stuck in these loops in my relationships. And this
mm,
and this not the cycle was basically me getting into a relationship, me withholding my truth and not wanting to rock the boat, not speaking about what I want and what I desire in the relationship, and eventually building up resentment. And then once it was too much to hold, the resentment just leaked out and I exploded on my,
mm,
right? And then
mhm,
every time I exploded, we would make up, and then it would just be rinse and repeat the same cycle, right? And every time I lashed out and there was a rupture, it grew like there was way more distance every time it happened, and eventually the relationships didn't work out. So it was only in the last couple of years where I really started to realize that that was actually what I was doing. I was withholding, I was building things up, I was then exploding and then rupturing the connection between me and my lovers. Um,
mm.
so that has been really like kind of the big picture of what was going on, right? With the woundedness that was within me and what I had to work through to be a better lover.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story because I think that's not that's a common loop that men get in, that people get in. But in a marriage it can happen and it just keeps going on and on and on. and the porn addiction, the connection to your to the mother, the traumas that you're holding on to, and just not knowing how to relate and how to deal with that in a way that's going to heal yourself, heal and move forward in the relationship, right? I see that all the time. I see that all the time. And it can be in a relationship and go on for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and then we can also get so used to that distance because we are able to use distractions to numb ourselves from what is actually going on that is brushed underneath the rug, right? It could
Yeah.
be, and that's where the porn addiction comes back in. That's where we go into overworking or any other vices that just really take us away from the present and being able to really face the real meat of the issues at hand between the both lovers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your your lover, your wife, your partner, I mean, they really show you what it is that's got to be dealt with, right? You're faced with it, face on, and it. Of course, it's easier just to okay, I can't deal with this. I'm going to go work really hard, and just that's what I'm going to do, or I'm going to, go sit on the computer and watch porn so I can get off and feel like some relief,
Yeah.
but without creating any kind of closeness or going into that place of what's really going on. You're like you're saying, you just the intimacy between the two of you just starts to separate and separate and separate, you
Yeah.
know and then eventually it might end, or you just, well, I know I see this a lot, the sex just, okay, well, I guess we're old, all the excuses come in now for why you're not having sex, all the excuses except for the actual pain that you're feeling, oh yeah, well, we're older now, or this is what happens in a marriage, sex dies out, or oh yeah, we have kids and that means, there's no more sex. You just like all these excuses just build up and they're accepted by society generally,
Yeah. Exactly. It's
so
a common narrative, right? That we all have heard at one point in our lives, and that's really something that is not absolute truth if you're willing to put in the conscious effort. Both parties are willing to put in the conscious effort to really take down those barriers of intimacy.
yeah, yeah. So here we are. You're like, okay, I want to be conscious now. I want to get out of that. I call it like an energy loop,
Yeah, exactly.
that just keeps going around and round and round, and you just can't seem to get out of it. So how does one get out of that loop that can just get so fortified?
Hmm. Yeah. So I did speak to, certain emotional aspects and traumatic past that can really shape the way that we relate in our current day, right? And so definitely getting some support with that side of things would be a big help. But also, one of the things that has helped me a lot has been learning how to pleasure myself in a healthy and intentional way, right? Because when we really think about how we have been conditioned to touch ourselves, I'll speak for men, right? How we've been
Yeah.
conditioned to touch ourselves through porn. We're like fixated on the screen. Our body posture is like scrunched up. Our breath is shallow, and we're just like tense and like just looking to just get off and release, and that's it. It's very goal oriented. It's very mechanical, and it's just not what sex really is, right? It's not what lovemaking really feels like. And so that act of masturbation does not translate well in the bedroom with a lover, right? And
Yeah.
so the way that I've been able to repattern that is by intentionally learning how to pleasure myself. And what that looks like is taking porn out of the picture and not going into fantasy about somebody or whoever, and just learning to feel the sensations of your body and really feel what feels good in the body, and just slowing down with ourselves. And I like to use organic cold pressed coconut oil and just like lather myself, massage myself, and wherever my hands want to go, right? And just really listening to our bodies and connecting with ourselves in that way, and learning how to really love our own bodies and the pleasure that it is able to create within ourselves. It's really rewiring our brains that our pleasure actually comes from us. It doesn't come from the screen. It doesn't come from the lover. It doesn't come from a partner. It actually comes from us first and foremost, right? And the more that we can rewire ourselves to really be grounded in that knowing that we have this wellspring of pleasure within our bodies, when we step back into anything in our lives, in our relationships, that's the kind of energy we get to step back in from, right? Not from a place of, I need pleasure from all these places outside of me. It's like, I have the ability to tune into my own turn on, my own pleasure, to connect with my body, to be more in love with my own body. And then once you step back into a partnership, when you step back into a relationship and have those conversations, you're coming from this place of like, come on, like, you want some of this? Like, and just that invitation, right? That invitation is so much more sexy. It's so much more embodied. It's so much more grounded. And so that has really been as a really sacred practice for me to actually tune in to my own pleasure and also my own power, right? Because the more that we can actually like ground ourselves in our ability to derive our own pleasure, the more powerful we feel. Because then we're starting to cut off all the codependencies that we have on external things to give us pleasure.
Really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing, working with women, the self pleasure, getting into self pleasure, and it not meaning, masturbation. I mean, it can be included, but
Yeah.
there's so much more involved when you're talking about self pleasure. But there's very little talked about when it comes to men doing self pleasure.
Mhm.
I was talking about this in some of my videos. I talk about, and I I call it cock energy actually, but I like like let's soften it a bit here because it's we want to connect to the emotionality of men as well. Like, cock energy sounds like, okay, cool, but like self pleasure is you're a human being with, a beautiful body and beautiful sensations all over your body. And to start to feel, really, really feel those sensations, like you say, it can be so profound and life changing. But how do we start? You like cut out porn. Okay, that's the hard one for a lot of people, but you have to cut the porn out because you don't want these externalizations coming into the grounding, right? So cutting out porn, cutting out trying to like create this imaginary scenarios, and then getting into yourself. So like let's look at like like getting coconut oil and smearing. I mean, I can just see guys going, oh God, like really, you want me to do that? Yes. So let's go in a way that how did you start doing that? Like what did you think when you first thought about it? Did you have someone talking to you about this? Did you come up with this idea? Um, and how did you feel when you first thought about, okay, self pleasure for me? Like how do I start?
Yeah, I mean, there's, we're talking about cutting out certain things that probably have been so ingrained in us for so long, right? With porn, with fantasy, with whatever it is, right? I think it's important to note that it's not necessary that we cold turkey and just cut it out entirely. It gets to be this gradual letting go, right? And
Mhm.
and eventually cutting it off if you want to. But if you're able to relate to those things in a healthy way and intentionally, then it's not a bad thing either, right? So for me, when I first started this, I was actually with a partner, and there was a deep part of me that wanted to get to know my own body better because I actually was struggling with premature ejaculation and also performance anxiety as well, at the time with that partner. And I learned afterwards that it was from my porn addiction and just like just that quick dopamine hit versus the slow burn sensations that happen in lovemaking. It just did not translate. And so like I went into sex from a very transactional and mechanical place and very goal oriented and just like looking to go into sex to get off, which just wasn't enjoyable for her, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I realized that the sex was not really happening anymore, right? So like that was kind of like the wake up aha moment for me. It's like I want to learn how to be a better lover, and I can't really rely on her to help me be a better lover. I
Mm-hmm.
get it was a realization that if I want to learn how to be a better lover, I get to love myself in the way that I am able to connect with myself more deeply. And that by that time, I was already doing a lot of diving deeper into my emotional states and just like my traumas and all that kind of stuff. So I had the awareness already that this notion of self-love was something that I wanted to deepen within myself. And why wouldn't I connect with my body, this vessel that has brought me this far in life and has gone through so much? Why wouldn't I give myself the space and the energy and the intention to learn how to connect with my body in a way to know what feels good and what doesn't for me? And by doing that, by practicing that, by deepening into that, I was able to learn what I actually wanted, learn what actually felt good for me. And and because I know it in my own body by experiencing it myself, I'm able to communicate it in a way more powerful way to my partner. It's not because like I'm not just coming from this place of like I think I want this and I want you to feel it. It's like I know I want this and I know this is what I like. And and would you would you want to join me in this dance of pleasuring me and in turn like also this exchange of me having that ability to slow down and tune in to my body, and my ability to tune into my body is my ability to tune into her body and slow down, right? So it's just like this huge mirror effect that happens when we pleasure ourselves. The deeper our pleasure goes within our bodies, within ourselves, the deeper we can take our partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's super counterintuitive to what we're taught, you know, or what is out there in society as you're learning about your sexuality.
Mhm.
Um, and so it takes a really conscious effort to understand that. And there's more and more people talk about connecting with yourself, connecting within, finding out what's really going on with yourself. And it does make so much sense when you think about, well, I don't even know like how what I like touched on my body because I don't even know my own body yet. I don't know like if my partner says, "Well, what do you want me to touch? What do you like?" If you're just like, "I have no idea," because you haven't got the connection. We kind of separate our body from our heads and like, okay, there's my erection. Okay, that's how I have sex and here's my thought process. But what about all the rest of this beautiful body that we have? And women love to see a man's body that is full on excited about, his own pleasure, excited in pleasure, feeling pleasure just radiating through his body. He's not looking to have, to have these, he doesn't have these expectations for what she is supposed to give him or what the steps are that they're going to have sexually. It's just this radiation of, like you were saying, like, I know my body. I feel, when you're really feeling that pleasure inside your body, like, um, every cell of your body is feeling pleasure and joy and just knowing. It's such a different way of approaching. And then, like you say, you can then invite
Mhm.
invite your partner in to enjoy the pleasure that you feel. And she herself, um, ultimately needs to do the same work. And that's what I do with couples is, okay, we have our relationship here, but we have these individuals here that need to find out about themselves. In particular, like, at all times, it's important work. But when you're in a relationship over time, and this sex that you're having is not working anymore, and you're kind of like, and you're like, okay, now what? Now what? That's when you go in deeper. Like,
Mhm.
what do I desire? What does my body desire? What part of my body desires, to be touched? How does it want to be touched? What do I feel when I touch this part of my body? Oh, that feels really good when and everybody is so different, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to explore their own bodies because we all have different places in our body that feel good or make us feel more sensual, or places that, wake us up more. And so
Mm.
So let's say, a guy is thinking, okay, yes, all right, I want to, like, go into this a bit and find out, like, how, I'm going to, like, cut my porn out. I'm going to, like, try this, what Nathan's saying. So how does one start? Let's give them a couple of steps to, like, get into discovering, to creating this self-love, this self-pleasure, um, this reconnection to your body.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really the first thing that is important is to just really get clear on what your intention is going into this, right? Because when we turn to porn or anything that is just essentially a numbing device, right? There's not much intention that goes into it, right? We flip open a screen and it's like we do our thing and then we're done, right? But then with this, with like sacred practice, with intentional self-pleasuring, we get to really go in with the intention of, okay, I'm doing this because I want to get to know myself better, get to know my own body better, and to really create that space and that time for myself because I deserve it, right? With us men in particular, we can get so caught up in our day to day and what we have to do and all these things that are very external, right? So it's like making time and cutting out space, carving out space to connect with our internal world, right? So that's the intention going in, right? And so it's really just blocking out like an hour or 2 hours in your schedule, like maybe on the weekend when you have private time, if you need to communicate with your partner, it would be beautiful to communicate with her and let her know that, hey, this is something that you want to start practicing. I want to practice how to pleasure myself and learn my own body without porn and fantasy so that I can be able to connect with myself deeper and learn how to be a better lover and partner to you, right? And so like setting that intention, like I mean, you just smiled when I said that. Like I think any woman, any lover would be like, wow, I would love that. Be so supportive of that, right? And so that's how I started too. It's like I've communicated with my partner, like, this is something that I want to start doing. And I believe that it's gonna really improve my own relationship with myself and my body. And in turn, I believe it'll also elevate my ability to show up better in our relationship, right? And so that's like setting the space, carving out the time to really dedicate and devote that to yourself, and then just going in and having fun with it. You have the hour or 2 hours of time, put on some music, light up some candles, like whatever it is. How would like the intention is, how would you treat yourself as if you were going to treat your own lover? So if you were going to set the space and the environment for lovemaking to occur between you and your partner, can you do that for yourself? And so it's like really setting the environment and getting in the mood and really being intentional with it, right? It's all about intentionality and really showing yourself the kind of love that if your lover did something like that for you, you would be so over the moon about it, right? It's like, but how can you give that to yourself? And in that, it's really, once you start the practice, it's really deepening your breath, right? And really like deepening your breath, slowing things down and just feeling what feels good in your body, and going for as long as you want. I talk about things like semen retention and like microcosmic orbit breathing and all those these are like the more advanced things that we can perhaps dive into, maybe not, but I feel like that's a whole other world. But it's really just about the intentionality and the carving out space for ourselves, and that in itself is not just you stepping out of the norm of what men usually do, but it's something that will really deepen your relationship with yourself and therefore with your lover.
Mm, yeah, wow. Yeah, I smiled because yes, I think most women, if they hear that their partner wants to do that, would be, quite happy to hear that. Quite entranced by, oh, okay, he's actually making a step towards uh, bettering himself to better the relationship, deepening within himself. Um, it might feel, I know we're talking to lots of men, even within the relationship, and setting up this kind of sensual scene is it might seem kind of let's say sappy or silly, or like, why would I, why do, that's not who I am. But it's an experience. This is all about exploring, exploring. And this is my big thing, is talking about exploring and experimenting. So
Mhm.
if something's not working, it's not going the way you want, and it hasn't been for many, many years, like your intimate and sexual connection, then it's time to explore something very radically different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you say that it's radically different, because for me it has felt more and more natural as leaned into it more. Because what is the alternative, right? It's like you said you smiled because you heard me say that, this is something I want to do so I can improve the way I show up in relationship, right? Improve myself as a lover and all the things. The alternative to that is usually us men hiding from the woman and watching porn on our own time and not talking about it and doing all these little things to like distract ourselves, right? So that in
Mhm.
itself is the piece that I would say is not working, right?
Yeah.
And this may be different. It may be something that's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Nathan? But also it's another way for us to still be able to feel good without the shame and the hiding and the distraction. This is something that we're not only feeling good, but we're also connecting with ourselves more deeply. So we're almost like killing two birds with one stone. It's like, you know, we're working on ourselves and it feels good. Like it's actually quite tedious, if you ask me.
Yes, yes. And those are two components that, I mean, why would you not want to just try and explore this way of doing it? And I say radically different, because most men are not brought up with connecting to their emotional side, to their sensual side, to it is kind of, it's side of the feminine energy that's part of them, that has been probably squashed down and not allowed to come out, and that more healthy masculine energy that exists but has not had the opportunity to really allow itself to show up yet. So it will be a radical change for some men, and I know that from working with many men. But it's a challenge. It's the challenge, and I put that challenge out to people. Go in for the challenge. Go into this new exploration, trying something very different and unique. And so, Nathan, so you started the practice,
Mhm.
and what did you start to see happen then for you in your life?
Yeah, there's one piece about the practice that I would like to add in here. It's really taking the goal and the orgasm out of being the main focus, but rather just learning to feel the sensations of pleasure within our bodies, right?
Hmm.
And so that piece, along with everything else, connecting deeper with myself, when I step back into my relationship, the lovemaking was just it just improved so much because I was no longer coming from a place of I need this. It was coming from a place of, I've been saying, it was coming from a place of I have so much to bring to the table here, and it's beautiful when we're able to share that together, right? And so what that looked like was just a level of lovemaking that was unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. The level of presence, the level of primal expression, the level of permission that I felt in myself to really take my woman to places that I wouldn't have taken her before because I was able to connect that with my own practice and bring that into the lovemaking, right? So it was very beautiful to see how my partner responded in the way that I showed up in and out of the bedroom, right? Because connecting deeper with myself also means, physically, but it also means that emotional aspect that you spoke of, right? And just like how we pleasure ourselves is a mirror effect of how we can show up to pleasure our partners. How we hold ourselves emotionally also reflects on how we can hold our partners emotionally, right? So the more we can navigate our own emotional states, the more capable we are of holding space for our feminine partners. And so that emotional connection was such a crucial piece of deepening our sense of connection with each other, right?
Mm.
When the emotional connection deepens, so does the physical connection. It comes hand in hand. And that has been my experience. And, like by being able to take the goal out of the picture and not focusing on I need to get off, but rather it's more so an experience of wow, this is pleasurable. I love this. More of this. Yes, I don't need it to end right now. And once I got into a more advanced territory, it was I didn't have to ejaculate every time. And from that, I was able to remain in that intimate dance with my partner for longer. Because what happens when we ejaculate? We get off and then we want to go to sleep and we kind of feel depleted, right? And we need to recharge for a while, right?
Mhm.
We have that power and that agency to retain our seed in a way that is pleasurable, in a way that's like, and our partners are informed on this is what we're doing as well. Like we're able to start dancing in the realms of intimate relating so much more fluidly without this on and off kind of energy. It's more so a dance that we get to flow in and play in. It's really a beautiful thing.
Mm, so nice, so nice. I mean, it's then it becomes this beautiful sensual journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's that's what I was talking about in some early videos about the cock energy, in the sense that it's the energy that you release in ejaculation that then depletes your whole body, right? Instead, it's moving all this energy into every pore of your body and just holding it in, and then it's powerful. Your body comes alive. Your
Mhm.
presence is alive, because here's this woman in front of you and she's beautiful and your body is alive and you just want to be there for her and watch her and touch her and feel what desires come up along the way. It's kind of like you say, that dance, it's where the desires come in. It's like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, let me try this. Let's go this way. Let's move this way. Let's move that way. And it's like up and down, beautiful dance. And you don't have to ejaculate. You don't have to chase. You don't have to release, and you don't have to chase her orgasms either, because that's the other thing. How do I make her orgasm? And she's like, how do I orgasm? Why can't I orgasm? That as well, you want to take those off the table, because orgasm comes out of desire, right? Orgasm comes out of the connection, the sensual connection that you have as partners. And so you need to get into that, like Nathan's saying, you want to feel that in your own body, and she's going to feel it from your body. Let me tell you, she will feel it.
Mhm.
She'll feel it dramatically. And that allows her to soften and drop into her feminine and feel safer, and feel like she can trust you more, and feel like, okay, he's got this hot energy like just coming out of every pore, and I just feel like so attracted to that. And I can now drop into my energy, my sensual energy, and let that move and dance and play, and orgasm will come.
Yeah.
Orgasm will just naturally bloom. And for the woman, if you as the man can hold and stay in this beautiful pleasure of your own body, then you can take this woman on multiple orgasmic states through this journey. She doesn't stop. Women are really, they will keep going and going and going for a very, very long time. And it will be a dance that will be just so incredible.
Yeah.
Um, for you to witness, and then yeah, you may ejaculate at the end, you may not, you may want to hold that energy and come back for more later. Because she's still going to be in that. This is the magic that the feminine holds. It's just the ability to continually tap into her orgasmic state, but she needs the masculine pleasure, power, strength, presence to allow herself to go into there.
Yeah. I love that. And I want to add to that because it's very beautiful what you just said. Because ironically, the more that we're hyper focused on orgasm, the less likely it is to occur because we're then in this like tense like fixation of the goal. Whereas it's like when you take it off the table, it's like if it happens, great. And if it doesn't happen, this still feels so good. So like it's a win-win, right? When we take it off the table. And that was something that I had to really learn how to do for myself, especially as a man, when we're so programmed from pornography that every time we enter a sexual act, we have to ejaculate. So I had to really reprogram my mind of like just being in my pleasure is already so awesome, right? And by being able to build my capacity to hold more pleasure and start breathing and using my breath to draw up the orgasmic energy within myself, I've also been able to achieve multiple orgasms without ejaculating. So it's like there is that power available to men as well. And I just want to like
Hmm.
we want to say that as well. It's like it does take time and practice and intentionality and deeper connection with self, right? And to know our own bodies and to be able to expand our capacity to hold more pleasure. And the more we can hold in ourselves, the more we are able to witness our partners in her pleasure and see her bloom in her pleasure and be able to be a witness to that and just be in awe of how beautiful that is.
Wow, yeah, I love that too. Expand our capacity to hold our pleasure. Yes.
Yes.
Because pleasure is a scary thing for a lot of people. The default tends to be pain, pain, emotional pain, physical pain, pain, pleasure. No, I can't allow myself that. I can't go there. But when you are able to just start to enter into it and then develop the practice to open to it, expand in it, it just keeps going and going and going, just like pain can keep going and going and going, right? But why go in that direction? Why not go in that direction?
Uh, yeah.
In the pleasure direction.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. I feel that there's this thing that I feel I want to say it's how for us men, the way that we relate to our bodies usually is like it's like this tool to perform, to protect, to fuck, and it's like this tool that we use, right, to to do all the things that we need to do in life. And really, essentially, what we have been talking about here is not relating with our bodies as a tool, but rather as an extension of who we are and a vessel of that holds all of us, that holds our love, holds our heart, and holds like all of our life's experiences. And I feel that the more that us men can relate with ourselves in that way, the more women will be able to feel that and to really um, be able to see us men on a deeper level, which I would argue is what we actually really yearn for as men. We
mm.
want to be really seen for who we are without the labels of what we do and what we achieve and all the things. It's really more so like, can you love me just as I am?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly what is needed. Exactly. I love that.
Mm.
Very, very beautiful way of putting it. And I think maybe this is a good place that we can kind of wrap up because there's so many different things that we can go into, of course, all the different practices and all of these things. And but Nathan is around and I am around and we're doing sessions with people and couples and workshops and all sorts of things. Nathan, maybe you can let us know just where people can connect with you, and I will also put it in the description. But why don't you say it out loud?
Yeah, perfect. I am the most active on Instagram. I post content there and I share things that I've been talking about and my own personal stories and how it weaves into the work that I do. So but definitely check out me on Instagram. It's Nathan Kwan, and I'm sure you'll share it in the show notes as well. And I also just finished creating a free guide on how to self-pleasure. So,
Mm.
and it's for men. It's a devotional practice that I created a free guide just to like really educate men further as to how they can start stepping into this and a step-by-step process and all the different questions that you may have about the practice. I created a nice little guide for anybody who's interested in that.
Wow, I love that. Guys, you got to go get that guide. Get started. Let's go. Let's go. Beautiful, Nathan. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me and the audience. They're going to appreciate this so much, I know, because I get a lot of these questions, and we're really starting to go deeper into connecting to our bodies and men, you know, being allowed to do this now. The allowance is there. It hasn't always been. It hasn't always been, but now men are stepping into that, and it's going to change. It's going to change lives. It's going to change lives. It's going to change the planet.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I believe it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Anna.
All right. Take care. We'll talk soon. Much love making.